So kicking off again, nice having Philip Letts with us. So first of all, how has the environment for SME financing, particularly tech companies, been since the recession started?
Really bad. Financing for tech companies or high growth tech companies, I think, has always been difficult. We have a very polarized planet. If you're within 100 miles of San Francisco, it's probably a lot easier, and it gets harder and harder the more east you go from there. I think Western Europe's got some particular problems of its own that have been exacerbated since the collapse of Lehman and the tightening of credit, and we clearly haven't seen any loosening in those, those credit facilities since then, and I think it'll be a long time before they do loosen. So I think, where it has worked for companies, and it seems to be getting fewer and further apart, it's been looking at alternative funding approaches and a very closed system of more institutional money or debt.
Sure. On the governmental side, do you think the UK government is doing enough to stimulate growth in the tech sector, especially for startups or maybe SMEs?
I think it's trying to do some things. London's obviously getting a lot of focus with consumer-style, tech support with Tech City and stuff like that. I think Cambridge has been a great success on its own. I'm not sure that we perhaps do enough to worry about opening technology education up to earlier in the system, and we definitely need more technology subjects appearing through the curriculum, and I think that's a big area that any government needs to be looking at. I think we need to be worrying about research and really core research and how well that's developing. And as you know, we recently made an announcement that we'd be opening an R&D centre down in the southwest, and that was largely because we felt that the southwestern universities have wonderful research facilities that are often a little neglected. So we saw a great opportunity to go and take advantage of that. But I think if you go outside of London, there are still a lot of challenges, and I certainly think the government's done some good moves with things like EIS and CDIS. I think opening up some of the, making some of the public market investments more attractive with LSE AIM, I think is good, but I just think culturally we're still in, I think we're very disadvantaged in Western Europe versus North America, and I think while that continues, then we will remain a long way behind. And I think government should worry more about culture and views to entrepreneurship.
Okay. The great thing and the natural thing with the tech sector is that it's the most innovative and creative out of all the different areas. So when it comes to financing, naturally, I suppose these companies, when you get given lemons, you make lemonade. So what kind of alternative financing routes have you seen SME techs go for over the last few years?
Yeah, I think that's the exciting part. There is no doubt that since Lehman, the financing landscape for earlier stage tech companies, or any really earlier stage high growth company that has some kind of IP associated with it, has fundamentally changed. And I think it's just begun. And I think if you look at the macro trend, it's really all about opening up access. And the biggest problem that I think any startup has had anywhere in the world is that access to capital is actually pretty antiquated and is very closed. It's closed for business. Well, that's wrong. And I think what needs to happen going forwards is to look at a whole range of alternative financing approaches, open up access, take it away from certain middlemen that control. You could argue a private equity firm is a middleman, you could argue a VC is a middleman, you could argue a bank is a middleman, and look at how do we free up flows of capital. This whole peer-to-peer is really interesting, and that's microfinancing, crowdfunding has got certain peer-to-peer plays. I think it's also about helping, like firms like Just Giving have really opened up us all as charitable givers, right? They've socialized it. I think we're going to move in a similar direction with money and the movement of money. And I think the more we do that, particularly for earlier stage financing, the better, because more institutional money is way better suited to much later stage money.
Great, and maybe you can talk about blurGroup specifically in terms of your history and the success of alternative financing and the service of S-commerce that it provides in terms of bridging those people.
Yeah, I mean, we had a thesis which was proved quite timely, which was that the older mechanisms, the more traditional mechanisms of raising money were kind of no longer so relevant. So we went and crowdfunded our own angel investors, and we ended up with a very large roster of about 35 angel investors, some incredibly well-known ones from all over the world, and some wonderful ones from over here. And we managed to take ourselves all the way through from early stage founder backing, which is fairly typical and more doable with companies being more cost-effective to set up, through angel. We went through 3 rounds of angel, and then we went public. And we had this thesis that you could go from angel to IPO. And there aren't many businesses that have proven that. There are a few. Salesforce.com is a very well-known example of that. And I think we managed to do that in Europe. So I think there is a new way. And I think people can look at how can I do earlier rounds with more mature ways or more structural ways of doing friend and family, that friend and family round, more organized angel groups, and then even out through public financing. Now, as a model, S-commerce, which enables businesses to buy services more efficiently, and businesses spend a lot of money on services. They spend trillions of dollars per annum on services globally. One of the things we've been worrying about, other than making sure that services can get bought and sold more efficiently, is that they also get paid for more efficiently. And as a result, we improve credit flows on our platform with the buying and selling of services. And so I think it's platforms like ours, I think it's crowdfunding platforms, and it's microfinancing, a whole bunch of different platforms that are coming up that mean that the world can look quite different for the more modern thinking entrepreneur.
Great, and so rounding off and looking into the future, I mean, we've picked up on some of the positives, but are there certain areas that maybe need to mature a little bit more to get the kind of success that some of these platforms already have at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's early days for these platforms, but equally, the cost of setting up new startups has gone down. So I think starting now, if we look at second half of 2013 through 2014, we look at the next 2 or 3 years, I think it's a much better environment for entrepreneurs to be able to look at some of these alternative routes. And to be honest, I think they don't have much choice. If you look at the amount of venture money that's going out, it's not getting any better, and there's fewer and fewer venture firms. So I think if you add alternative financing to some of the new incubators coming out, I think there's a lot more routes. I think the difficulty is, how do you know you're picking the right one? And I think the best way to figure that one out is do your research, but talk to other entrepreneurs, talk to people that do understand these platforms and the worlds that they play into. Also, I think look at, just be more open-minded about different routes, because it is a minefield getting through it, but if you pick the right route, it can be incredibly successful and satisfying.
Great, well, thank you very much.